Carolina's got the talent to build a lead, but not the team cohesion to keep it. Something's got to change.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen or watch on this Wednesday. And I want to give a special welcome to our everydayers, our Locked On Tar Heels insiders, and of course, our great Discord members as well. Always something crazy going on. And I'd love to invite you to come be part of all of that. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet $5, and if you win, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head on over to FanDuel.com to get started. I want to start off by apologizing for Tuesday night. We tried to do our live post-game reaction show as we always do. And of course, the internet was struggling at Shady Acres. I know, and it stinks because there was a whole bunch of people hanging out and we were going to have a nice big therapy session, but it just wasn't working. And I didn't want to keep people hanging on and figuring out, wondering if I'd get it, if the internet would come back. So I was like, you know what, we're just going to be done. I didn't even keep it on YouTube and I didn't send it to the audio platform. It just wasn't, it wasn't good enough. So my apologies if you were part of that. I hate things like that outside of my control, and I hate that it makes me waste your time, and I never want to do that, so I apologize. North Carolina loses at Pitt 65-73. The Tar Heels fall to 13-9 in overall, and 6-4 in ACC play. They fall to 39th at KenPom. I wonder if we have a refresh because now all the games for the day are over. Let's see what KenPom has. Still 39th. There you go. So that's where Carolina has now fallen in the KenPom rankings. This is another quad one opportunity, and it's another quad one loss. The Tar Heels are now 1-8. Yes, 1 quad one win, 8 quad one losses. They're all good losses, but they're all losses. And at some point that has to matter. So this is a therapy session. We're going to dive into it. And, I invite you to come sit on my couch and we'll do our best. Where we're going, we'll have our Four Corners recap. We'll talk about RJ starting to find his shot a little bit here. Yeah. Seth Trimble becoming Mr. Rebound all of a sudden, but unfortunately isn't able to really find the bottom of the bucket much. I hate that for him. I know it's got to be frustrating. That and much more. We'll talk about our 3-minute mark thing that we talked about on Tuesday. We'll unpack more of that because once again, it was a 1-possession game with 3 minutes to go. But here's where we're starting. Recall with me, if you will, the narrative, the storyline at the beginning of the season, and the thing we all saw unfold game after game after game after game after game after game after game was that the Tar Heels simply couldn't get it going in the first half. I mean, it was a wild phenomenon. They're dropping by double digits almost every game. Like Georgia Tech was a lone exception where they fell behind by 8, and they were working their way back in all of those. They were having to play catch up. Now, that's not really an issue anymore. It's great. Carolina has figured out how to get a lead in the first half. Now the problem is they're getting ahead and they can't hold it. The issue now is that the Tar Heels are getting a lead in the first half and then letting the other team back in. As I teased in the cold open, this team is plenty of talented. There's so much talent on this team. There's enough talent to build a comfortable lead, but there's not enough team. There's not enough cohesion. There's not enough leadership. There's not enough communication to keep that lead. And so routinely, Carolina does a great job of getting a lead in the first half of basketball games. And then they can't hold on to it. Let me give you some specifics to that. Let's just look at the last 4 games. And I'm just talking about like Carolina in the first half, like the flip of what's happening in the first half. At Pitt, Carolina was up 10 with They went up 10 with 2:11 to go in the first half. When there was 1 minute and 1 second left, Pitt had cut it all the way down to 2-point lead for Carolina, and it stayed there for the halftime. So from 10 down to 2 points. Versus Boston College last Saturday, Carolina was up by 9 in the first half, 10:26 to go. by 4:19 left in the game, it was tied and Carolina was up 1 at the half. So from 9 down to 1 by halftime. At Wake Forest last week, Carolina was up 9 in the first half, 13:28 to go. By the time we got to 1:33 left, the game was tied, and then Carolina led by 2 at the half. How about let's go back to Stanford a couple Saturdays ago. Carolina was up by 7 with 8 minutes and 7 seconds left. They were down 1. Stanford fought all the way back to take a lead with 55 seconds left, and then Carolina was up 1 at the half. So the last 4 games, Carolina has taken at least a 7-point lead in the first half, and in all 4 of them, the Tar Heels have led by either 1 or 2 points at halftime. Man, that's a trend, and there's something you got to get figured out. I'm not even remotely joking. Like that is enough of a thing where it's not just random data points. There is something going on, whether there's a multitude of things, and I'll suggest one of them here in a second. Specific to this game, here's how that drop-off went from 10 points down to 2. Van Allen Lubin, a nice little post move, right shoulder, baby hook. Carolina goes up 10, 44-34. 2 minutes to go. Pitt starts getting into their offense. They haven't had a field goal in over 3.5 minutes. Jalen Lowe gets a switch on Lubin, drives in. Drake Powell either can't or doesn't slide over to help defense, and there's layup 44-36. On the other end, RJ Davis unfortunately slips, loses his footing. Pitt gets the ball. Lowe takes it the other way, sort of pushes off Seth. They're not going to call that, I guess, in transition. Buries a 3, 44-39. And then fine, all that's understandable. You give up a bucket, that happens. You slip, you fall, you lose the ball. It's unavoidable. But then on the next possession, RJ tries to thread the ball into Van Allen Lubin. That's knocked away. It's not a smart pass, and it turns into another Jalen Lowe 3 on the other end. Now it's 44-42. Pitt has scored now 8 points in a matter of 49 seconds of game time. Just like that, Carolina was up 10 with under 2 minutes on the clock, and now they're going to the locker room up 2. That's what we're talking about, man. That's what happens. It's discipline. It's details. I know we're tired of hearing that from Coach Davis. I'm sure the players are, but it's so true. It really is true. Now, part of the issue is that some of those who were in the game weren't able to execute at the level they needed to. Part of the issue is that the team wasn't able to execute because of who wasn't in the game. Why was RJ Davis the one having to handle the ball all there? Because Elliot Cadeau, yet again, was in foul trouble in the first half. This is another trend. Let me say this. Elliot had a phenomenal first half. He was responsible for 10 of Carolina's first 14 field goals of the game, scored 4 of those baskets and assisted on 6 of them. First half in totality, Carolina had 17. So there was only 3 more buckets after that while he was sitting on the bench. Crazy stuff. So what a first half for Elliot. The unfortunate problem that keeps rearing its head is foul trouble. And the issue is that both of the fouls Elliot committed in the first half I thought were avoidable. The first one was like he just dove after a ball that I didn't think he had any shot at getting. And I appreciate the what am I looking for? The exuberance, I guess, is maybe the word I'm trying for there, to go get it. But there wasn't a chance at it. Just let it go. Just let it go. And then there was a play with 4 minutes and 16 seconds left where he's trying to fight through a screen, and that still wasn't it wasn't a foul that needed to be committed. And you can see on the game film, Coach Davis kind of giving it to Elliot a little bit right there. And so perhaps it's not so coincidental that in those next couple minutes, as Elliot now has to go to the bench with 2 fouls, is where Carolina builds up a 10-point lead and Pitt shrinks it all the way back down to 2. Early second half, Elliot picks up his 3rd foul, 16:35 left on the clock. He's got to go to the bench. These things all compound. These fouls all have ripple effects. That's what I want to say. That's what I want to talk about. Ripple effects in that they affect the things that your teammates are doing. They affect your ability to stay in the game and be effective. If Elliot hadn't committed at least one of those two avoidable fouls in the first half, then this 3rd foul is just a 2nd foul, and then the 4th foul is just a 3rd foul, and nobody cares. You keep playing and you're in the game. And that is critical. Why? Because he was Carolina's most dynamic offensive playmaker for most of Tuesday night. Ian Jackson started hot as well, but didn't do much after those first two early buckets. I went back. Carolina has played 10 ACC games now. I went back and looked at how many ACC games did Elliot pick up 2 fouls in the first half. And the answer is 6 of them. 6 of the 10 games. The kind of unfortunate, disappointing thing is that he hadn't done it in either of the last 2 games. Neither Boston College or Wake Forest did Elliot pick up 2 first half fouls. And it's like, oh, new trend. This is great. Let's keep it going. Not so on Tuesday night against Pitt. And it's not just the fouls. It's I talked on today's show about how Elliot has to make better, wiser, more intentional decisions with the ball. Here's an example of that. Carolina goes up 1 on Elliot's wildly difficult runner off the glass for a 65-64 lead. Pitt misses on the other end. Carolina has the ball and are in good shape. There's like 2 minutes and 45 seconds left to go. We're up. We got the ball. Let's get a good intentional possession, get the shot we want, the best shot we can find. And Elliot gets the ball, goes in transition, gets the outlet, goes in transition, and Van Allen's running ahead. And there's a potential to get him the ball in transition, but it's threading the needle and having to do so out ahead of him, and Van Allen can't handle that. Maybe Tyler Zeller does, who's sitting over behind the bench, on press row doing the the color for this game along with Jones Angel. But Van Allen Lubin's not going to handle that pass. There was no reason for Elliot to throw it. The problem then is it compounds. Again, everything has a ripple effect because then Pitt goes down on the other end, hits a 3, and that's it. Carolina literally never scores again. Literally doesn't the rest of the game. So it's just like that 3 that, where Carolina could have gone up by 3 or 4, depending on what they did. Instead, the ball's back in Pitt's favor. They score a 3. That's the first 3 points in their 9-0 run to close the game. That's it, and that's all. North Carolina needs their point guard desperately to stay in the game. It is a completely different team when Elliot Cadeau is on the bench or Elliot's not playing like the best version of himself. So Carolina also then needs their point guard to make better decisions. It feels like there's 1 or 2 passes from Elliot every game. And I get that he's trying to do things, and I get that there's a lot of pressure because this team doesn't have any room for margin or error now. And so I get that he's trying to make things happen, but you still got to make the right and good passes. Like as an example, I know plus minus isn't everything, but Elliot was +8 in this game. Nobody else was even close. The closest player to him, I think, was Van Allen, who was +1. Literally everyone else was in the negative in plus minus. Carolina needs their point guard. He's got to make better decisions. And thinking of the offense in totality, on tomorrow's show with Coach Rob, we're going to dive in a little more specifically to the offense. So get ready for all of that. Now, it might be a bit hidden because of the recent losses, but RJ Davis, he's starting to cook a little bit right now. So we're going to get to that and the rest of the Four Corners recap coming up in just a second. Right after we talk about FanDuel, Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. So whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, betting on the coin toss, or whatever prop bet you want to get in on, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on that action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff all the way to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app really is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets and get that for the Super Bowl, man, that's the icing on the cake. You look at the ACC regular season champion odds, Carolinas are fading. They're plus 25,000 to win the ACC right now. They're tied with several schools at those odds behind Duke and Clemson and Louisville, who I actually think is the second best team in the conference right now. Crazy. So download the app or head on over to FanDuel.com to get started. If you get $5 bet and you win, $200 in bonus bets for that first time bet. Man, great stuff. So come check it all out at FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Time for the Four Corners recap where we unpack this game. Let's talk about something positive, shall we? Yes, please. Thank you very much. I need that in my life right now. This is a therapy session for me as well. That was great. Stream of consciousness. Way to go. Hidden among the weeds right now. Is RJ Davis getting right? He's cooking a little bit right now. Let me give you the last 4 games of RJ Davis. This is Stanford, Wake, Boston College, and Pitt. RJ is averaging 19.5 points a game. That's a couple points up for his season average. And he's doing so efficiently. Those 4 games, shooting 48.1% from the field, 40.7 from 3. That was the hope. That was what we wanted for him for this season. It's finally starting to come around, but he's got a big old hole to climb out of. And 93.8%. 93.8% from the free throw line in the last 4 games. And by the way, that uptick in scoring is while he's still maintaining a 4 assists per game average through those 4 games. Season long, RJ, this is great, is finally up above 30% from 3. It's 30.3%, but still, he's above 30% now. His season field goal percentage is just shy of 40%, which is great. It's climbing. It's getting closer to like his season high or career highs. His 2-point field goal percentage right now is 48.5%. That's less than 1 percentage point off his career high, 49.5%. So RJ doing it in so many places. I think we've just been so like hyper focused on the 3-point shooting and its downturn that we've missed perhaps so much of the other great stuff that RJ is doing. So just make sure you catch that and see how his 3-point average is just creeping up a little bit here and a little bit there. Number 2 in our Four Corners recap, Jalen Washington obviously did not play in this game. And that was critical because Pitt had a nice size advantage over Carolina, which, spoiler alert, is going to be true against Duke on Saturday as well. Post-game, Coach Davis said, quote, he wasn't close, but he's improving fast. Wasn't close to playing, that is. He said the good news is everything came back negative, which we already knew. And again, it's not shocking that Jae'lyn didn't play in this game. A lot of times when guys are in the adrenaline of right after the game, they're like, I'm good, I'll play. The doctor said structurally good. Yeah, sure. But let's wait until things calm down and then we'll see where we're at. So when will he be back? We don't know for sure. However, Coach Davis also said, quote, he's improved dramatically every day since Boston College, but he wasn't ready to play. He didn't practice the last couple days, end quote. So it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then a little trip over to Durham. Is that enough time to get JWash back in and going? Because I think his length could sure help. So we'll see what happens there. But in light of no Jalen Washington, it meant that Carolina needed a big game out of the combo of Van Allen Lubin, Jalen Withers, James Brown, and Ty Claude. It just wasn't enough. What they brought, there were some nice things here and there, but it wasn't enough to offset what they were missing with JWash out of the lineup. I mean, and like Ty Claude played a few minutes. He was physical, didn't score, but again, had great energy as he always did. Had a really impressive, crazy rebound one time, had a block, a couple other things. So that energy that Ty Claude is bringing is really helpful to the team. James Brown came in, played a couple minutes, 2 quick fouls. I say a couple minutes. I think he played like 1 minute, 2 quick fouls, and then the heave-ho, and he never came back. Van Allen Lubin was fine, 6 points, 3 of 5 shooting, 7 boards. Great job, Van Allen. An assist, a block, but the kind of other bugaboo, 4 turnovers. You'd love to eradicate those and not have that in your repertoire. Let's get rid of turnovers. The other thing I was confused about was, did something happen to Jalen Withers? He came in, played like 3 minutes, had really good energy, scored 5 points. Yes, he slipped and it allowed a Pitt 3, I think it was when that happened, but still played those 3 minutes. And I literally don't think we ever saw him again in this game other than on the bench. Crazy for JWitt, but there you go. Anyway, JWash obviously didn't play. We'll see if he plays Saturday, and he could certainly be helpful. Number 3, Seth Trimble. Let's start with the positive here. This dude is suddenly a rebounding king, rebounding magnate. He now has back-to-back double-doubles, Seth Trimble does, which is so funny given how few times in his career now he's gotten to double-digit rebounds. But now he's done it back-to-back and set a career high in rebounds in both. He set it at 12 and then tied that on Tuesday night. Really cool stuff from Seth. The unfortunate side of it is it was a tough shooting night for him. Just 3 of 14 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3, and 4 of 5 from the free throw line. Did have 2 assists, 0 turnovers. I will take any amount of 0 turnover you want to throw at me. That's really encouraging from Seth, especially in a game where the rest of the Tar Heels had 14 combined turnovers, I think 7 of which were from the combination of Elliot and RJ. So really needed Seth to be that in this game. Also, going 4 of 5 from the free throw line, you would think like, oh man, that's going to bring my average up. Not so with Seth in the last couple games because this dude's up over 80%, 85% for Seth Trimble. His 3-point percentage is down. It's actually under 30%. It's 29.8 right now. But man, what he's doing at the free throw line is really encouraging. Speaking of the free throw line, that's Four Corners point number 4. Free throws. Pitt doesn't typically take a bunch of free throws. They're ranked somewhere in the hundreds in free throw attempts per game. But where they shine is free throw percentage. So when they do get there, they hit them. And in this game, they both got there and hit them. They took a bunch, 20 free throws, and made 16 of them. Meanwhile, Carolina was just 6 of 9 from the line. So both teams had a weird difference from what they usually do this season. Pitt shot a lot more, and Carolina shot a lot less. The percentages were pretty close, but when you're taking 20 attempts to 9 attempts, that's a big difference. That's typically what Carolina does to people, right? But not this time. Carolina just 6 of 9 from the free throw line. So there you go. There's your Four Corners recap. Some critical things that were part of this game. Now, we still got to get to the Shady stat of the game, which was a doozy. Oh, boy. Plus, I want to update you on our 3-minute mark conversation that we had on Tuesday's show. So we'll get to all of that here in just a second. Shady stat of the game, and it's a shady, like negative shady stat of the game. North Carolina committed 14 turnovers, Pitt just 6. And boy, did Pitt translate those into points. At halftime, it was 12-0 Pitt in second chance points. By the time the game was over, it got slightly better. They didn't double that, but Pitt led points off turnovers in this game 22-4. 22 points off turnovers to 4 for North Carolina. None in the first half. Specifically, I remember the first bucket of the second half was 2 points off turnovers for RJ Davis, a layup off a steal. So one other bucket somewhere for Carolina off turnover. Man, that's just in a game where the margins are razor thin, which they are for Carolina. You got to win moments like that. And Carolina didn't. And that stinks. So let's talk those razor thin margins. If you joined us on Tuesday's show, you heard me talk about some research I had done into, hey, I know things are close late, but let's just pick a time and see how things are there. So I took all 9 ACC games plus Pitt is 10 now, and looked at where things were at the 3-minute mark. So 3 minutes left to go in the second half, 3 minutes to go in regulation, however you want to say that. How were things? Because it's really felt like Carolina has been right there on the doorstep. Yes, they've won some, but yes, they've also lost some. And are my feelings accurate on that? So I went and looked into it and did the research. And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Carolina's been so close so many times. There have been 2 games out of the 10 ACC games where Carolina, at the 3-minute mark, had a double-digit lead. That was 16-point lead against SMU and a 23-point lead against Cal. Other than those 2 games at the 3-minute mark of the second half, the other 8 have all been one-possession games. So you talk about all the one-possession games Carolina's been in. Well, the end of game number doesn't always account for that. So, for example, this game or the Boston College game aren't technically one possession games, even though they felt like it most of the game, just because Carolina etched out the lead a little bit right there at the end. Well, so I backtracked it to the 3-minute mark, and here's where things stand. Georgia Tech +2. Carolina was up 2. Louisville, Carolina was down 1 at the 3-minute mark of the second half. Notre Dame, same thing, down 1, 3-minute mark of the second half. I'm going to skip SMU because that was +16. NC State +1 with 3 minutes to go in the game. Cal +23. Again, one of the two outliers there. Stanford +3, Wake -2, Boston College -1, and then Pittsburgh on Tuesday night, Carolina was up 1 at the 3-minute mark. So of those 8 games, it's like, man, you'd love to do what you need to do to win 6 or 7 of them. Carolina's 4-4 in those games. And there's some level at which I would say to all of us and say to the team, hey, so you got to figure out how to close these close games. You can't just lose them. You can't just acquiesce to that. You need to win these close games. But the other side of this token is don't do the things to get yourself into a close game in the first place. Get your 10-point first half lead like you did on Tuesday night and then expand it. Don't let Pitt cut into that. No. Get that and then build on it to 15 to 20-point lead, whatever it is. Carolina was unable to do that in many of these opportunities. It's so tough. Heels are in a position to win, but they just don't close it out. They have to learn how to do that, or again, to just not get into that situation in the first place. Some of this is just execution down the stretch, like that Van Allen Lubin layup just kind of spinning out off of, it was a great leave off from RJ. Some of it is mental errors. This team is making some low basketball IQ decisions that they shouldn't make. And ultimately, all of this down the stretch of this game anyway, from the 3-minute mark on, amounts to Pitt taking their biggest lead of the game, 4. 4 points was their biggest lead of the game at this point with 75 seconds remaining. Obviously, it built out a little bit more than that, but 4 points was their biggest lead of the game. And so it's just like, dadgummit. How do we break this trend? How do we break this cycle? How do we break this streak? We got to get this figured out, or else we're going to continue to do it game after game after game. And we're going to continue to give Isaac heart palpitations. And my poor little heart just can't handle it. Okay, so stop. I kind of joke, but very seriously, man. Something's got to give. Something's got to change. And, now we look ahead to the rest of this 4-game slate that we had talked about that was so difficult to navigate. Now you got to go to Duke before hosting Pitt again the second Saturday from now, February 8th. And then you got to go to Clemson. So all of this is coming. All of this is happening. And it's difficult. It's so difficult. But you can do it. Again, they're just right there. It doesn't take much to fix and adjust and make this happen. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today's show. Thanks so much for joining me. Great to be together. I know it's frustrating, but misery loves company, and therapy sessions are always helpful. So I really appreciate you being here to come hang out with a guy like me. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and do that right now so that we can get to 10,000 subscribers in the show's first 3 years. That's coming up at the end of September. So you subscribing right now is going to help us get there. We're down under 300 people to go. Help us get there. Thank you so much. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, that link's in the show notes. Free to join. Come hang out with a bunch of Tar Heels and talk Carolina hoops all the time, and other sports and other just life things going on. It's a blast to be a part of. And also, if you want to go even deeper, join the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. You get direct access to me and all other perks as well. Get to see my charts and stats and data, all sorts of great stuff like that. You guys might not feel it right now, but it's true. It is always, always, always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We are going to talk again tomorrow, Thursday, with Coach Rob. We'll unpack several more things from this game. We'll look ahead to Duke a little bit. I want to ask him how he would attack the Blue Devils if he were planning the game script for that. So we'll get to all of that on tomorrow's show with Coach Rob. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you'll join us. But until then, Peace.